All right.
All right. Well, we're back to it. We're bright and early here, 6:15 a.m. and had to get one in here. Obviously, change of scenery. We're up in the wrestling room here, so yeah, had to knock this out. We have another top 5 coming at you today. I think that's a good format. I think the last one worked pretty well.
Yeah. And we'll see how it goes on social media here soon.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So, top 5. What did we decide on? Top 5
Top 5 exercises in the weight room for strength.
for strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Sure. All right.
We haven't seen our list yet. We haven't.
Yep. Which
We're
is
not
always
saying
kind of
it.
fun.
All right. Is this in any specific order, or are you just kind of?
I'm kind of going. I'll go from 5 to 1.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll go from 5 to
Okay.
1.
Okay.
All right. Number 5. Not a super hot take or anything, but I went with pull-ups. Pull-ups. Something I think can be important. It's almost like the king of all upper body exercises, what I've heard it referred to as.
Yeah.
But yeah, just having strength, especially it's body weight strength. You can add more external load. There's ways to band it up or assist it if they're not strong enough to do it.
Yeah.
But as an athlete, if you can knock out 10, 15, 20 like good pull-ups, like you're pretty strong. So it's not just a way to see strength, but it is a way to actually get stronger as well. With any of these exercises, it's depending on sets and reps and how you do it, that's how you build strength, in my opinion. But yeah, I think pull-ups, definitely underrated because it's not fun. I hate doing pull-ups, but I prescribe them all the time. My athletes hate doing pull-ups, but I still prescribe them. Yeah, just a good way, tough exercise builds strength.
What's your progression for a pull-up? Where you start them
Ooh. All right, so progression for pull-ups. Start with negatives, 5-second negatives, 7-second negatives. We'll progress to 10-second negatives. And then the next 4 weeks will be holds at 90 degrees.
at? Okay.
And then we'll progress to actual pull-ups. And all at the same time, we're doing inverted rows on different days, stuff like that. So similar-ish pulling movement.
10-second negative, huh?
Yeah.
That's a lot. How many reps?
I think it's 1 rep per set.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen you do like the 3 stop one. Lindsay used to do that as well. I like that. Sometimes I think it's a harder one to work with like people that are doing different exercises. If it's the whole group, and I can, hey, this is, and demonstrate it, I think that would work really well.
Yeah.
But if it's like, you're doing this and you're doing something else and you're doing, and I look over and you're just flying, I'm like, bro, we just talked. So I don't really prescribe it, but I'm all for. I'd do it for my sister. I have her do that.
Yeah, those suck.
Yeah.
If someone can't do a pull-up, whether they're a lineman or just don't have the strength, what's your alternative?
So if we can't do a pull-up and
Yeah.
they can't do a hold, because you're always, you know this, whatever you can do concentrically, you're going to be stronger isometrically being able to hold it. You're going to be even stronger eccentrically doing the negative. So if they can't do a pull-up, and let's say they can't do a hold, at least for not a good amount of time, and they can't do a negative, if they're too weak to do a negative, we're going to do a ton of more horizontal rows. We don't have a good setup to do any pull downs or anything like that. We could, but it's not a good setup. So I'm going to hammer them with rows, and then we could do some banded regressions as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
What about you?
4.
Pull-ups.
Well,
Especially you in a big...
do you read it?
Well, the top one?
Yeah.
I was trying to read in between your fingers.
No, my first one is pull-ups too.
Hey, man,
That's
it's a
what I
good
got.
exercise.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of pull-ups. You know, I think we talked about this before. Last school year was my first year incorporating pull-ups into the actual class program. I mean, the reason I kind of shied away from it, really, it's twofold. One is we have a good amount of lat pulls, a decent setup down on the far end. We've really ran into lately where it's like, with classes of 50 plus, it's still kind of, even if I had everybody doing lat pulls, it would still get too busy down there. So that, and even more importantly, is we have such a wide variety of kids in class, from freshman to senior to cross country runners to linemen. So it's like I didn't really want to deal with just having a whole bunch of different variations going on. But because I think it's a great exercise to build strength, I added it in there last year, and it actually worked pretty well. And I think it contributed a lot to the numbers that we saw, at least bench press wise. Our kids did a really good job at them, and like you said, it sucks. It's not really fun, but some of the kids like them.
Yeah.
Especially if they're good at them.
Of course.
So I would agree with what you said about it being the kind of the king of all upper body exercises. I think there's no really, if you can not, like you said, if you can knock out 10 to 15 like good pull-ups, like there's no question that you're strong upper body wise. Progression wise, like we do similar to that, we'll start with negatives. I really only go to like 5 seconds, I think, but I'll have them do like, I think the most reps I'll have them do is 5.
Okay.
I'll start with like 3. And I'll usually stay at 3. We'll do that for 3 or 4 weeks. After that, I've done it I did it a little differently this year than what I did last year. Last year I had the second progression would just be like an ISO, but at the top. Hold it at the top, which I wasn't really a huge fan of just kind of how that worked. Then I'll do the 3-second pull up, and then this is super simple. I got this actually from Belo's like Notre Dame like Block Zero program that they send everybody by.
Yeah.
He was having me look through it, and one of the things they do is just like a normal pull up, but like 2-second pause at the top and the bottom.
Okay.
Super simple, but I think that really like exposes you. You know what I mean? Like
2-second pause at the bottom sucks.
Yeah. So that I've been liking that because it's a good challenge, and again, I'll keep it 3 to 5 reps. I'll usually give them a range with pull-ups, just because again, there's a wide variety. And I tell them, like, I think right now after school I have our both basketball teams and wrestling doing the pull-ups with 2-second pause at the top and bottom. And a lot of them struggle with it, which is fine. But I think I'll give them like between 3 and 8 reps.
Okay.
And like if you can hit 8 reps on the first set, you hit 6 on the second, and then 4 on the third, like that's fine. I mean, you should just do, kind of the upper limit of what you can do.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's a lot of just band variations that you can do with that. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of kids are excited to get their first pull-up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a big one.
Like, it really is. It really is. So pull-ups, I think, is a great exercise to build strength for athletes.
Yeah.
Okay. Second, I did a lot of 3 out of my 5, I have variation after it. Okay. So like just you can kind of, there's a lot of different variations that go into it. But this is, I think we probably both have this one. I have a squat variation. Okay. So again, this is for building strength, or these exercises are for building strength. I think your squat variations go a long way. Just how your upper body is the king of all, or your pull-up is the king of all upper body exercise. The squat is the king of all exercises, a lot of people say. I think squat variations, I think, are just great for, sure, lower body, but I think it helps you with, I think, learning how to breathe and brace properly, I think, goes a long way. And that's usually most people's first introduction to it, that or the deadlift. And so when I say variation, like, I mean any type of variation. There's a lot of different ones, but like we'll go, I know we weren't even really talking about progressions, but like
that's fine.
Just throw it in there. The variations that we do, like we'll do with our freshmen, we'll do just like a goblet squat. We'll really start, incoming freshmen, we'll just do like tempo bodyweight squats. Then we'll go goblet squat. And then once we get into class, we'll do some like hands-free, like front squats or zombie squats, whatever you want to call them. Big fan of that, especially for young kids, just teaching them positioning and where they need to be. That's another one that kind of will expose you if you're off just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and then I'll work into a front squat and then a back squat. We'll do, accessory-wise, we'll do Bulgarians, we'll do split squats, we'll do a lot of like single leg, like pistol or skater squat variations. So we have all of that kind of like baked into the program. And I think on top of all of that, I think for the fact that it's both hip and knee dominant in a sense, you know, depending on what variation you're doing, I think is a benefit to it as well. So that's kind of my thoughts on my second one, the squat variation.
The hot take after our overrated.
What do you mean?
Because I think
Oh, the
the
overrated
top five.
exercise.
Yeah. And we both had squat on there.
Did we?
Yeah. But I like that you threw in all these variations.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to back squat.
Yeah.
And like, you threw in a bunch of single leg stuff. And like, you don't even have to squat.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's only so many movements you can do. If you're thinking of lower body, if it's like a compound-ish movement, bilateral or unilateral, you're either doing some sort of squat or you're doing some sort of hinge. That's what you have. So my number 4, 5 was pull-ups, 4 I have overhead press.
Okay.
Overhead press. 1, I put bench press as, I think, number 1 most overrated exercise.
Okay.
When we did that a few weeks ago. So I think if more people focused on overhead press, 1, their bench would be better, and 2, their shoulders would probably be healthier. And by they, I probably mean me.
Yeah.
So, and overhead press is not something I'm good at.
Yeah.
If you remember when we used to work out all the time together, like high school and maybe early college.
Yeah.
Like overhead press is not my strength, but still something I train weekly. It's a good full body-ish, upper body exercise. Recruits a lot of muscle. Your chest is still going to be relatively involved, but it's not like a main driver of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you get stronger at overhead press, if you progress in that movement, you're going to see a lot of improvements in all upper body strength. And plus, you're just training your shoulders through a fuller range of motion.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. As far as progressions, I typically I almost always have it standing. And then we could just do a dumbbell. You can throw in dumbbell variations. I typically don't with athletes, but you could, like as far as Arnold or reverse and things like that. But dumbbell, you can go barbell overhead press, and then even though it's different emphasis, I'll use that as a progression into a push press and then a push jerk with some of like the college athletes that come in the summer. So kind of use that as a progression. And you're going to use, if you work backwards, push jerk, you're going to use the most weight. Push press is going to be the second most weight you use. Overhead press without using the legs is going to be the next most. And dumbbell is going to be your weakest one.
Yeah.
You're going to overall use the least amount of load. So I kind of use that as a progression.
Yeah, I see that. That's my third one. My third one is overhead press.
Well, dang it.
Because I think kind of like you said, I think so many people are so bench press focused, you know, like horizontal pressing. And I remember in grad school when I was interning, I remember they would talk about a lot, like, you know, with athletes that felt like they were progressing or plateauing on a bench press, they'd always be like, well, we need to overhead press more. You know what I mean? And that kind of like stuck with me a little bit because it's still, I mean, it's obviously a different movement, but you're just pressing really at a different angle compared to the bench press. So I think that's something that goes overlooked a lot of times with athletes just because it's, you know, I think of like Olympic weightlifting, like, yeah, you're probably doing a lot of like overhead pressing or at least variations just because that's part of your sport. But I think the bench press is so focused on in the world of athletics and just in the world of just lifting weights in general. I think the overhead press is often overlooked, and I think it would go a long way in, like I said, helping us get stronger on just pressing in general, you know, compared to just doing, you know, incline, decline, you know, a whole bunch of different variations of flat bench or horizontal bench. So that was my third one. Usually, shit.
We're never doing mornings again.
Okay, lights are back on. Okay, usually I'll go, I really don't get to standing until like the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks probably. Because I'll start with usually tall kneeling, no, actually, half kneeling actually. I usually go half kneeling first, depending on the semester. So I'll go half kneeling, whichever knee is down, same side hand has the weight. So we'll do that for a couple weeks, and then we'll go into tall kneeling. I really like that tall kneeling variation, just for, especially for younger athletes. I think it forces them to kind of just recruit more like full body, like your glutes, your hamstrings, your core, just to stay upright. I mean, if you've never done it before, like, you don't really realize how much stability you need to stay there. And this year, I think was the first year I started like adding a pause overhead too to the tall kneeling, which really just kind of like challenges your balance and stability. So I do like that tall kneeling variation. After that, then we'll work into usually some type of overhead or standing overhead press. And then I've done some like overhead press with a leg drive, or really just like a push press. I don't get into any like split jerks or anything with any of the high school athletes. But usually the end variation is like a push press type of thing. Sometimes we'll do like a standing single arm, like like dumbbell press, but that's kind of the variation I'll take. But I think, and really when you look at it, both pull up and overhead press are two, vertical patterns that I think a lot of times get overlooked in just programs for athletes.
Yeah.
So
I agree, and I think the horizontal pushes and pulls, since it is less range of motion, you can load it up more and feel and look stronger. Yeah. It's like if you take that press or that pull to the full range of motion, it's going to be a lot tougher.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before, but I think like a lot of times with like overhead stuff, I'm kind of hesitant on it just because like you don't know what's going on at the shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, but I think implementing, at least for a press, like, using dumbbells for something like that, if they feel something with the barbell, usually dumbbells can kind of clean that up a little bit, just gives you more freedom to kind of move a little bit. So sometimes I do, and mainly it's just like we talked about previously with the snatch. It's mainly that. It can be kind of, not tedious, but you have to pay a little bit more attention to how an athlete is feeling, I think, or what they're feeling when they're doing an overhead press. At least I find myself having to, and just, having ideas in the back of your head of what to do outside of that. So like overhead press, if someone's like dealing with a shoulder thing and they feel it only in an overhead press, like just doing high incline dumbbell press, like just kind of bring the angle down a little bit, or like a high row, like, if you have a setup with a cable or something like that. Okay, that was what, number 3?
That was number 3.
Okay, what's your second one?
Okay, so I went
or fourth one,
pull up, overhead press, and now I'm circling the one you already did. I put bilateral squat movement. Okay. I put front, back, safety squat bar, or trap bar as like an option. Trap bar, squatty, hingey, whatever, but a bilateral, heavy squat-ish pattern. Again, I don't really care on the exact variation. I start athletes with body weight, at the lowest level. Goblet, I have the option for hands-free, but a lot of there's some athletes that get to that. And then front squat, back squat. I don't even know if we have safety squat bars, typically for like a split squat variation. So, I think as the stuff you mentioned, like it's going to be great exercise for the legs. You talked about bracing of the core. It's going to be a huge component to your upper and lower back, the whole backside, to just keep that weight in that stable position. So everything's got to turn on. You're going to recruit more motor units on that than you will pretty much any other exercise. Gives you a good opportunity to put a lot of load on the spine, which I know sounds dangerous, but it's not necessarily a bad thing if you progress to it. So, I think for all those reasons, as far as research, like everything is, not everything, but so many studies are centered around the back squat and jumping, the back squat and sprinting, the back squat and change of direction. So it can definitely be a good exercise. I'm not married to any of the variations, but I think that's a good way to throw a lot of load on the lower body.
Yeah, I forgot about the safety squat bar because we don't have any, so I really don't
Yeah.
ever do that. But I wish we had some
Yeah.
because those are super nice to be able to do a lot of different things. And I like that you put the trap bar in there. You know, a lot of times people don't think of that as a squat variation just because of, I guess, where the load's at. But like you said, just because you're not actually loading somebody doesn't mean that it's not a
Yeah.
squat variation.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, that's good. Bilateral squat. My fourth one is an RDL
Ooh,
variation.
okay.
Okay.
Now we're gonna start to differ. That's fun.
Again, a lot of different variations you can do with the RDLs, but I think for just the posterior chain, I think the RDL is a great exercise. I think it's it's a staple movement, or at least your hinge is learning how to hinge, and just move your hips horizontally, if that makes sense, back to front. I think is one of the more difficult movements for athletes to learn. But I think once you learn it, you start seeing it in a lot of different, use it in a lot of different athletic movements. And so the RDL, again, variations, like we'll start with like a tempo. Usually, sometimes I'll go tempo 1 dumbbell RDL, so you're holding it like tall ways. You hook the dumbbell
gotcha.
at the top, just to kind of, because that, for whatever reason, that seems like it keeps people in a little bit more of a natural, like neutral spine when they're doing that, or at least it feels a little easier for them to do that than having like 2 dumbbells or a bar in their hand. And so we usually start with that, and I always start with like a tempo, so like a 3-second eccentric. We'll do that. We'll do 2 dumbbell RDL, and then we'll move on to a bar. From there, I've done both, like kickstand RDLs or like a B stance RDL, where you have your front foot flat and your back foot or your back heel is elevated. And then I've also done, I forget what I call them. What do you call those when you're if you ever do those? Your back foot is flat and your front foot is like elevated. I think I just call it like a split stance RDL.
I don't know. When I first got to PSM, the coach before me, his name was Dane. That's how he would coach the stagger, the split, the B, the kickstand. That's how he would coach it.
Yeah.
And I always did front foot is the emphasis, and back foot's there for support.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's just a preference.
Because I would do both of those. I think I would just call it like a staggered stance RDL. But I've been playing around, or not recently, but in the past I played around with where, kind of where you feel it more between those two variations, whether your front foot is flat, so like here, right, which I think is typical, or here, because I feel like sometimes pulling the toe up, I think can help you feel a little bit more in the hamstring. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Staggered stance RDL.
Just variations.
Just variations that you can do, and I really don't ever do any, like, I have in the past, but I haven't recently, like any single leg RDLs.
Yeah.
Which I think we've talked about before. Unless you have like hand supported, but even when you do a hand supported, at least for the kids that I see, the athletes that I have, it's like they still struggle with it and doesn't really do what I need it to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd rather just stagger it and kickstand it and just give them a little bit more stability, but have them focus on just a little bit more of a single leg variation. So I think with all of that, working the hamstrings, the glutes, there's a lot of stress on the lower back. Again, going back to breathing and bracing, like especially once you get heavy with it, like you have to, or you're going to feel it in your lower back without a doubt. So I think it's a good teaching tool for kind of all of that, teaching the hinge, teaching how to breathe and brace, how to keep a neutral spine, what it feels like to actually do a hip dominant movement. A lot of kids are just naturally knee dominant, because I think that's how they just have naturally moved for a while. So it's different for them. It's a good challenge for them to learn how to move at the hip like that. So for all those reasons, that's my fourth one.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So mine, at first I was thinking, at least we're different, but it's still kind of similar.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's a single leg, well, yours could be double leg, but you talk about single leg variations, split squat.
Okay.
So split squat, I think I was influenced by this when I was at Bomarito's. Pete was more of a conjugate system sort of programming, not completely, but he tried to progress people into conjugate.
Okay.
And it's not like West Side, Louis Simmons, like heavy box squats. For your dynamic effort, your explode, we would squat typically. But for your max effort, and he would never go for singles or anything like that, he would do single leg variations, unilateral variations, Bulgarian, split squats, step ups, stuff like that. And he talked about it as like a way to really hit one leg hard, each leg individually hard, but without loading the spine too much.
Yeah.
Especially for these older football players, I get that. And then we talked about this also on the overrated episode, the Mike Boyle like influence of, he talked about, hey, you don't have to squat, like, and that kind of blew my mind. And he talked about all his athletes split squat. And he also in that episode talked about the bilateral deficit, meaning if I'm doing a regular squat, the amount of muscle I activate in each leg is going to be less than if I just did a one leg exercise, how much muscle I activate in the one. There's too many, your brain has to activate too many motor units, and it's hard to do that. If you just focus on one, you can activate more. And I'm like, oh, and then learning about that. So you're going to be able to split squat more on one leg. How do I word this? Like if I can split squat 200 pounds on one leg, I probably can't squat 400 pounds on both, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for all those reasons, plus recent experience, I didn't experience this much down in Florida, but with athletes here, a lot of them have, not a lot, a couple of them have had back issues with squatting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like your form looks great. You're not like doing anything funky. There's no wink, there's no rounding. It's like you look fine. Wow, it's just this one spot. I'm like, all right, let's try split squat. Like we can stay with the load on your spine, but just do one leg at a time, or a reverse lunge or a Bulgarian, and there's no issue.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, probably some sort of rotation thing and one side's not doing it. I don't know, we could ask Dom, but I just found that to work better and we can still load the legs heavy.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons, I love split squat.
Yeah, we do a lot of those too. Split squats are great. Dude, I didn't even think of our overrated exercise episode. I can't remember if I had this one on there or not. So if I did, I got another one because I can't contradict myself. Okay, but my last one that I had, tell me if I had this. The last one that I had was a clean. Did I have that on there?
Shoot, I don't think you did. I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I just edited that episode recently, like for the clips.
I was like, bro, when you brought it up, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even think about overlapping on that. Okay, I'm gonna stick with the clean though.
Yeah.
I mean, even if I had it on there, that's all right. Okay, because I think you can also make an argument, maybe that it is for overrated, but I'll say properly done cleans.
Yeah.
I think with good technique.
I'm sorry, is this your last one? Is this number one?
Yeah,
okay.
This is my last one. Yeah, so properly done cleans, I think, in terms of just strength building exercises, I think is great for athletes. And I think what most people run into, we've all seen it. We've all seen just horribly done cleans, like in high school and even college weight rooms. Obviously you want to stay away from that. I think what most people run into, why they don't get the most out of the clean variation, whatever you want to do, is just because they don't take enough time to actually learn the movement. They want to just jump into it and use a lot of weight, which is the exact opposite of what we do. Especially, it's nice that I get 3 or 4 years with most of the athletes that I work with. Not all of them, but just being in a high school, gives me that long time to expose them to just proper technique. So, like, we just started. This is the 9th week of the semester, and so last week was our first week doing like a full clean from the floor. Like up to that point, it was just all just progressions and complexes. Like a lot of it was stuff that we did with Lucas.
I was gonna wait for you to finish and ask if that.
A lot of it was stuff with that, because that this is my first year teaching it from the floor. The last 4 or 5 years we did it from the hang. And so I just, for a lot of different reasons, I wanted to try out cleaning from the floor this year. And so again, to reiterate, like we've spent 6 or 7 weeks of doing. I think we started with like the complex was like just a tempo deadlift or a tempo clean deadlift. So like just 5 seconds, pretty much exactly what Lucas had us do. So 5 seconds on the way up, just focused on positioning. I'd have him do 2 reps of that, and then I'd have him do 2 reps of like a tempo high pull from the floor. Again, all just focused on positioning of where the bar is at, where your body is related to the bar. And it's crazy with an exercise like that. The first week, the first 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, oh my God, like what are we doing? You know what I mean?
I suck.
Like, should I scrap this whole thing? But it's one of those exercises that and I tell the kids, every day, or at least try to remind them, like, it should just be a little bit better than last week. And some of them are like naturally good at it, but most of them struggle with the concepts that we're throwing at them. So, but just in general, I think the clean teaching, coordination, teaching like just full body strength, if you will, and just kind of because to have a good clean, like your body has to work all together. You know what I mean? So I think with that, I think it's a good challenge for a lot of athletes, but I think the payoff at the end of being able to explosively pull something from the floor, to go into a triple extension, to have the timing and the coordination to switch from the full extension into triple flexion, and catching it and handling the load on the catch and being able to front squat out of it. We don't ever jerk or anything, but I think all of that together, I think takes athletes a long time to learn, but I think the payoff at the end is pretty significant.
Yeah.
Especially, like I said, if we spend 2 or 3 years on, learning how to do that movement, you can get pretty strong and explosive, if you will, if you do it right. And it's one of those movements, I think, out of my 5 that I have on here, yeah, definitely. It's the most aggressive movement that I have on here. So I think for all of that kind of combined, I like the clean if it's done well and if the time is taken to properly learn it. I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah, good answers. And then my number 1, this is going to be an interesting one. I put, and this is very on par for me. Clean is very on par for you, and then this one I think is very on par for me. I put the isometric mid-thigh pull.
Okay.
I think hopefully we all know what I'm talking about. You're basically doing a rack pull, but it's an unmovable object about halfway up the thigh, maybe a little closer to the knee. Should be enough weight on the bar that it doesn't move, or it's just set up in a way that you're pulling into something that doesn't move, like pins. I think we talked about concentric strength, and you're always going to be stronger isometrically.
Yeah.
You're always going to be stronger eccentrically, but that's a whole different topic if we were going to do super maximal stuff there. Isometric, so you're going to be stronger there than you can actually lift. There's a study that showed it was like competitive power lifters, how much is their PR on deadlift versus how strong they are in certain positions, like isometrically. And all of them are much stronger isometric, and this would go for anyone, much stronger isometrically and like a good, even though it's a deadlift-ish position.
Yeah.
But if you can pull as hard as you can, you're going to produce more force. You're going to utilize more motor units, which if we're talking about building strength, cleans as well. That's the goal. Maximize motor unit recruitment. Sure. Yeah, there's some synchronization and rate coding stuff, but how much muscle can you recruit? How much can you turn on right there? And just me personally, what I've seen that do for my sprinting and my jumping at different times of the year or different times of my life, when I take a block and just focus on that and what I see it do, or different isometrics and draft prep guys, just recruiting a ton of motor units. You're not going to get sore. You're going to get really strong, specifically in that position.
Sure.
If I do an isometric mid-thigh pull, most likely I'm not going to get stronger at pulling from the floor. I need to work that position. But for all those reasons, and I think this is something I got in an argument with, debate, with like a former coworker from Florida on, I reshared something on Instagram about our field is too interested in concentric
Yeah, I saw
base
that.
movements.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I think it's so much easier to measure. You put weight on the bar, can you stand up with it? Yes. Okay. We can't measure properly eccentric strength. You'd have to go to a lab, or like there's only a couple things you can do with force plates for that. It's like it's not a good measurement.
Yeah.
There's not a good way to measure it, even though it's important. Isometrically, there's better ways to measure it, but it's still a much easier setup to do concentric. But isometric strength for athletic performance is still hugely important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with all that being said, that's my number one.
Do you ever do those polls from? Because I see you use. I think it's at the field house, like it's like an ISO rack. I don't know what it's called,
yeah.
but
I
that
think
looks
that's a
really
good
cool.
way, yeah.
Do you ever do them at like different positions? Do you ever do like polls like mid shin, right below the knee, above the knee, mid thigh? Do you ever play around with that at all, or is it mainly just mid thigh?
For me personally, I have.
Yeah.
I've played around with it for different positions. With athletes, and this is only a couple athletes we have do this, as it's not, especially if it's like your class size, it's not efficient. You
Yeah.
can't put 50 people on this one thing.
Yeah.
Set it up in different positions. You got to weigh in on the force plate. It just takes too much time. But we normally actually do it from a squat, like put the bar on the back. But yeah, play around with different positions a little bit with athletes.
Okay.
Like maybe we're talking a couple degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've played around with the ISOs a little bit, not enough. But I like the concept of just being able to put a lot of force into the ground or whatever you're putting force into without getting sore. I think there's a lot to be said about that for, and I haven't used it yet because I haven't experimented with it enough, but like for like in-season lifting, you know what I mean? Like to be able to still, put a lot of force into an object or the ground, but without really going through a full range of motion and facing the possibility of getting sore. I think there's a lot of benefits to that, but I just haven't really played around with it much.
Yeah.
I had an honorable mention.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. What
I
is
didn't even
it?
write it down, but just as we were talking about, I think my honorable mention would be a lunge. I think
Okay.
like some type of. It doesn't have to be walking, but I would prefer it to be walking.
Okay.
Now it doesn't matter. You can use a bar like on the back if you want to. Some people that's not really super comfortable, so you can use 2 dumbbells. You can do 2 kettlebell like front rack type of thing. A lot of different variations to be done with a lunge, but I think for single leg strength, and especially I don't know exactly what it is, but when you walk with it, I get so much more sore than if I just stay in place and walk and push back. Now I think there is something to be said about teaching young athletes how to get a good push off your front foot when you're doing just like a stationary lunge, because I think a lot of, at least from what I've seen, a lot of young athletes struggle with that feel, and a lot of it's probably just coordination and body awareness, but I think to build like lower body strength kind of goes back to like your split squat type of single leg. I think split squat's probably a little bit better because there's a less of a learning curve and less balance with that, but I think a lunge is a great exercise. Whenever somebody has like an upper body injury, specifically like shoulder or anything that prevents them from like holding a bar.
Yeah.
Since we don't have a leg press or like we don't have really any machines, which is fine. But I'll have them wear a vest and like a chain.
Yeah.
If they can hold a plate, maybe if they're strong enough to, and just have them do like walking lunges and maybe pair that with like a banded good morning, type of thing that they, again, just for upper body injured athletes. But yeah, I'm a fan of the lunge. I think you can build a lot of strength doing that.
Lunges suck.
Yeah, lunges
Lunges
definitely suck.
destroy my legs.
Dude, I saw Trev on Friday, Jarvis.
Oh, okay.
He was at the game. He was like, yeah, I just did Bulgarians for the first time since I've been here. He was like, yeah, I did it as my finisher, so I just grabbed some 75s and I just knocked them out. He was like, yeah, it's been like over a week and I'm still sore.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, Trev, what the hell are you thinking, dude? Like, that's what you used to do when you were lifting all the time.
Yeah.
Like you used to grab 70s or 75s. thought he still had it. I'm like, bro, you're getting old, man.
And this is why 20 and even like 30-year-old dudes are such high risk for injury, especially like I think Achilles ruptures.
Yeah.
Because they think, oh, well, in high school,
Yeah.
or like, man, for him, he's only a few months removed
Yeah.
from that stuff. And it's like, you haven't done this in forever.
Yeah.
And like, maybe your body still can produce that output, but man, it's going to be a lot to recover from.
Cash that check,
Yeah.
pay the price for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just funny. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Did not teach anything.
True.
But, okay, that was good, I think. It's a good
Yeah.
list of just different exercises. And there's nothing really groundbreaking on there,
No.
but it's interesting we had a lot of similarities without even talking to it.
That's how it goes. Look, upper body wise, you can, with every joint, you can flex or extend. Some of them you can rotate.
Yeah.
You're either pushing or you're pulling.
Yeah.
You're either squatting or you're hinging. You can do it on one leg, you can do it on two legs. There's only so many ways to do stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no need to like complicate or do some Joel Seedman stuff for this. Like, just get stronger at the movement.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. I think you can give some good insight into kind of what our thoughts are when we think of just how to build strength. Really, at the end of the day, we both know this. Most people do. Building strength really comes down to it's not really so much about what exercises you're doing.
I'm happy you said this.
It's just more so about, one, biggest thing is just being consistent,
Mm-hmm.
just basic progressive overload, and just using good technique.
Yep.
We've talked about it before, but there's a lot of just different tools in the toolbox. As people like to say, that's all these are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different options out there, but if you're consistent, if you use good technique, and if you progressively overload just on a consistent basis, like you're going to get stronger.
Yeah.
So there's no secret to it. There's no magic pill or exercise or anything that
Simple.
you're going to do. It's pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, anything else, man?
No, hopefully last early morning episode for
Yeah,
us.
I got to start. I'm feeling good, dude. It's 7
Oh,
a.m. Yeah, I'm usually finishing my workout right now. Yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good. But no, that was good. We had to knock that out. We were a little bit behind, so yeah, we'll keep on keeping on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
we
what
will.
it comes down to, being consistent.
Yep.
There's really a lot of growth comes from that. So,
Yep.
all right, man. We'll knock these out, and we'll see y'all next week.